Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of We Should Cook That. This week we're taking a look at the tantalizingly incredible lobster roll from the Optimist, located in Atlanta, Georgia. If you like lobster and you like rolls, then sit back because it sounds like this episode was made for you. To start off, we're going to be making split top buns from scratch. So begin by combining 3.5 cups of bread flour, 1 3/4 teaspoons of instant yeast, 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of sea salt, and then discover that your extension cord is 2-pronged while your KitchenAid is 3. So rearrange your entire kitchen and lighting setup, and then slowly add in half a cup of both warm milk and warm water to your mixture, followed promptly by 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. Once your dough starts to look smooth, add in 2.5 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 1 tablespoon at a time, and mix until thoroughly combined. Remove the dough from the bowl, form it into a ball, and place it into a bowl covered with plastic wrap for about an hour or until it has doubled in size like this. Now that we have totally redeemed ourselves from the first time we made bread on this show, let's go ahead and release some inner pent-up aggression on this bad boy. Lightly flour your work surface and then turn out your dough, making sure to pat him because he's such a good boy. After that, we're going to cut him up into 10 to 12 equal-sized pieces, or as equal as you can possibly get them, and then fold each individual dough ball onto itself with 3 folds, and then roll them into taut balls. After you've successfully made a few balls of dough, cover them with a clean, moist tan towel and let them rest for 10 minutes. Once they're good and rested, we're going to roll them gently into little hot dog bun-shaped rolls, which we're going to arrange on a parchment paper-lined baking sheet, roughly half an inch apart and covered with plastic wrap. Let them rise one last time for about 45 minutes, and voila! Last step before the fiery inferno is to brush them lightly with 1 egg mixed with 1 tablespoon of water. Insert your rolls into a 375 degrees Fahrenheit oven for 15 to 20 minutes, or until they come out looking golden brown and delicious like this. Finally, brush the buns down with as much melted butter as your heart desires, and let's give a major shout out to Joshua Weissman for this awesome recipe. Now let's get started on our lobster. To start, we're going to bring about 1 inch of heavily salted water to a rolling boil in a tall stock pot, and then drop our lobster into it for about 15 minutes, since this one is about 1.5 pounds. Now, this is my first time cracking open a lobster, so if you're looking for a how-to video on how to do that, look no further. Basically, you're going to want to smash these claws with the heel of your knife, and then use a lobster poker mechanism to extract all of the meat from the claws and knuckles. This should take you roughly 30 to 40 minutes. And if you are lucky, you will be rewarded with a delicate piece of beautiful lobster meat that looks like this. So now that we are done with our claws, we're going to take a look at the most popular section of meat, the tail. Begin by using the palm of your hand to crack the back of the tail. Once you've cracked the shell enough, the tail should just slide right out, leaving you with an absolutely glorious piece of meat. Chop it up into large pieces, and then let's get to the legs. Basically, what you want to do is cut the larger side off and use a rolling pin to push out the meat. A lot of people overlook this part, but lobster ain't cheap and we need to use every ounce of meat we can get. Next on the agenda is making homemade mayonnaise. I've always despised mayo, as many of you may already know, but maybe making my own will yield better results. So we start off by cracking 1 egg into a mason jar along with 3/4 cup and 2.5 tablespoons of sunflower oil, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Now the kicker here is that we have to use an immersion blender and hold it on the bottom on high for the first 10 seconds. After this, we can move it up and down to incorporate any leftover oil. Now I gave it the old taste test it deserves, and I gotta say, it tastes light years better than any store-bought mayo, and I will be making this forever. Next, quite literally up on the chopping block, is our celery. This, along with roughly 1.5 tablespoons of our mayo, a squeeze of fresh lemon juice, and some finely chopped fresh dill, will go in with our lobster. We want to keep this salad nice and light. Nobody wants mayo to be overpowering the taste of this beautiful meat. Give it a nice stir, and then realize you forgot salt and pepper, so go ahead and season to taste. Once everything is incorporated, make sure to taste test your creation, and let's get started on our final element of this dish, homemade chips. If you haven't yet invested in a mandolin, and I'm talking about the musical instrument, not this vegetable slicing tool, Go out and grab one today and then leave a comment about what our band name should be down below. Once you've done that, slice up 2 russet potatoes very thin and make sure to give them a nice cold water bath so that most of the starch leaves and we can get a really crisp chip. Now, unfortunately, the steam from my lobster endeavors earlier destroyed my induction cooktop entirely, so I had to rearrange and get this shot on my stovetop. To cook the chips, get your oil ripping hot and drop in your very dried off potato slices into the oil. Remove the chips with a metal spatula since you don't yet have a spider, and we are going to season these with what I call sweet Old Bay. Basically, just Old Bay with a little bit of sugar. Make sure they taste as delicious as they look, and what do you know, fried potatoes do taste good. Now let's assemble this thing. First and foremost, you must butter the sides of your roll and get a nice grilled cheese style sear on both sides. After that, simply pile on as much of this chunky lobster salad as your little heart desires. And I don't know about you, but my mouth is literally watering as I'm speaking right now. To finish this off, add a little bit of chopped dill followed by a few chopped chives and a pile of these delicious chips. And there you have it, folks, the most perfect lobster roll on planet Earth. Now, I have not eaten breakfast or lunch at this point, and it's 3:30 p.m., so I'm very excited to dig into this one. And let me tell you, this sandwich will rock your freaking universe. Give it a shot, you will not be disappointed. If you like what you've seen, be sure to like this video and subscribe so that we can get to that huge 100 subscriber milestone that's just around the corner. Thanks, and be sure to tune in next week for a kale recipe that doesn't suck.